Hi everybody, I hope you're doing well, and thank you so much for taking the time to watch my whiskey wandering video. It is really great to have you all a part of this little but growing bourbon and whiskey lovers community. And you know what, looking at the stats, by the way, we have some folks joining us from all over the place. In fact, we're going international. So for you folks out there in South Korea, annyeong chingu, mis amigos en Mexico, gracias, la gente en España, gracias, and you know what, cheers to those not so distant cousins out there in the UK, Canada, and Australia. It is truly great to have you all here. Now, this time I am in North County of San Diego in a Costco store located in Carlsbad. And this store usually probably has one of the best selections of whiskeys I've seen in Southern California on a consistent basis. So to keep these videos from turning into War and Peace, this one specifically, I'm going to break this one into two segments because there's just so many interesting, enticing, and great whiskeys on this visit. Now, before we get to though, if you like these videos of me whiskey shopping at Costco, please don't forget to like and subscribe. That way you can get updates when my newest videos get put up. So thanks again, and let's get down to it. All right, so the first whiskey that I saw on this trip is basically one that I buy every single time that I find it. And now after this trip, I might actually have enough of it to crack one open and try it, which is the Shibui 30. Now, I got hooked on this one early on, back when Costco still had some of the other Japanese whiskeys that have basically gone extinct in Costco's in the United States. So things like the Yamazaki or Hibiki age statements or non-age statements or anything for that matter. And I started seeing the Shibui 18 and 30 and others come out. So I just took a chance and bought them. You know what? Every time I see it, I buy it. And it's interesting because it is a whiskey made from rice. And in this case, it's actually distilled and barreled in Japan. So it's a quote unquote real Japanese whiskey. Although in Japan, because there are rules, it's not considered whiskey, but I could be wrong on that. But here in the United States, though, it does meet whatever the U.S. criteria for whiskeys is. But the Shibui line in general has such a unique flavor and uniquely Japanese balance. So I just buy it every single time, much to the chagrin of my whiskey budget. Now, the Shibui 30 is aged 30 years in ex-bourbon and sherry and European virgin barrels. It is made from 100% long grain rice. It's a product of the Masahiro distillery, which is in Okinawa, and the price at Costco is a pants-tightening $799. But really, if we're trying to rationalize this, to the wife or significant other, or heck, even the cashier at the checkout at Costco, why you're basically mortgaging your house for this whiskey, you can just look at the highs and the lows of the street shelf price on it. On the high side, we find bottles as high as $2,025, and on the low side, it's as low as $1,099, but that still puts the average price at $1,562. So if you do get the Shibui 30 at Costco, you have a savings of $763 in cash, or 48.85%. I mean, basically at that price, they're paying you to take it off their hands, right? No. Yeah, no, it didn't work out so well on either. But the ABV on this bottle is at 43%, which is a very reasonable ABV for Japanese whiskeys that don't tend to be so heavy-handed on the alcohol content. They're a little bit more of a velvet bag with gold dust than just an iron fist to the face, like some of the other high ABV whiskeys. The notes on the Shibui 30 are sweet oak, nuttiness, chocolate-covered cherries, and steam. And there's a specific mention that the longevity of flavors at the end is good, but is not competitive with the other 30-year-old malts. The reviews, as you expect, do put it in the mid-90s, which is an average score of 95 points. And if you have not guessed it by now, in conclusion, I bought it. I buy it every time I see it, if I have the budget, and if I have enough husband capital to justify with a wife, and if I can find it. So, yes, it is biased, but you know what? This is just kind of the cold hard truth of it, I guess. Now, the next whiskey is really on the way other end of the whiskey palette and has an appeal to the more frugal side of me, which is the Distance 12, which is made by Puncher's Choice. Now, when I saw this whiskey, it sort of kind of put me off simply because of the bottle and the advertising on it. It seems to be trying to, tap into that low-hanging fruit of masculinity to try to sell bottles, which is fine. It just puts me off a bit. It just feels like the affliction shirt or the tap out shirt of whiskey, which is not what I personally look for in a whiskey. It's just kind of too macho for my taste. Saying that, I do drink a fair amount of arrogant bastard ale, so you know what, call me a hypocrite if you must. So either way, the Distance 12 is sourced from the IJW Whiskey Company in Louisville, Kentucky, and the company is based out of Eugene, Oregon. The whiskey is finished in California Cabernet Sauvignon barrels, which in my book puts it in the new version of the New World whiskeys. And the price at Costco is a healthy $99.99, while the street shelf price is at a high of $199.99 and a low of $169.99. So that puts the average street shelf price at $184.99. So if you do end up getting it at Costco, you'll save $85 or 45.95%. It's pretty good. Now the ABV is a healthy 48%, so maybe after a few of these you might do some punching of your own, but the taste profile specifically mentions the complexity of the flavors in this whiskey. Now that may seem instantly appealing, but complexity could mean interesting, or could also mean trying to figure out why the timer on your microwave is never right. Damn you, daylight savings. But either way, complexity doesn't always mean good. Initially it mentions toasted oak, dark cherry fruit, vanilla, and the flavor is balanced out, but not all at once. So basically saying you get the flavor one at a time, one after the other, more like flavor whack-a-mole, or whatever that version of whack-a-mole with the alligators is called. The reviews gave it a 72 average score, but that is mostly mid-70s mixed in with a few low 60s, so it's kind of varied. Now in conclusion, this was a hard pass for me, and it's going to be hard because it tried to ignite the punchy side of masculinity in me to buy this mid-tier whiskey. It just makes me think that they're hiding some sort of cost-cutting measures they put into making the whiskey behind the marketing. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe it could be great, but it's a hard pass for me. So if you tried it, I would love to hear your thoughts on it. Now the last whiskey that I'm going to talk about in this Costco trip, part 1, is this Barrell Bourbon New Year's 2022. This is by the same people who do Seagrass, which I bought 2 previously of, and have been seeing a good amount of variety of their whiskeys come onto the shelves at Costco. The distiller of the actual whiskey is undisclosed, but I have read it is likely either Dickel, MGP, or Wyoming whiskey. This specific New Year's 2022 is a blend of 5, 6, 9, and 14-year-old bourbons, and maybe somebody's lucky lottery numbers, and it is non-chill filtered and notably cask strength. The Costco price on this bottle is $71.99 with a high and low shelf price at $95 and $77.15, which puts the average street shelf price at $86.08. This also means that if you do buy this Bourbon Barrel New Year 2022 cask strength at Costco, you'll be saving $14.09 off the average street shelf price, or 16.36%. Not the worst, but definitely not the most savings that we've seen at Costco. The tasting notes say that the flavor is piney, blackberry, taffy, roasted corn, and hints of metal and banana. Oh, and despite the high ABV, the heat or the alcohol burn is quote-unquote well placed. The average review scores that I could find scored it at 73 points and are basically made up of reviews in the low 70s. The conclusion on this one is, well, I don't know, I've seen a lot of variety coming out of this maker, and there's a Seagrass, which I end up buying 2 of. There's a 15-year-old gray label, which I have seen, plus this New Year's 2022, and there's another one I can't remember what it was called, and I have seen it though. So there's a lot, and it's a bit confusing of which one to buy. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try my Seagrass and then either work my way up or down the offerings to see how it goes. So in conclusion, try the Seagrass or try whatever you got, and then maybe try the New Year's 2022 cask strength later. All right, so that was it for today's Whiskey Wandering at Costco in Carlsbad, which is in San Diego, California. This is part 1. And thank you again for watching to the very end and watching these videos at all. It's amazing to have you all a part of the community. And I hope that you enjoyed this video. And again, if you did, please don't forget to like and subscribe. That way you can get notified when my newest videos get put up. Also remember, if you see a whiskey that you do love, just buy it. Because if you don't, somebody else surely will. And it might even be me. Have a great rest of your day. I'm out, and adios.